Okay, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Right, let's dive straight in and start with strategy. So, many companies have incredible strategies on paper, but as we know, execution can fail at the people level. From your experience, what turns a growth strategy into lived behaviors inside the organization?
Organizations spend so much money on these strategy documents, and they're often written for analysts or for board members or C-suite, and they make zero sense to the frontline managers. So if you want a document to be live or a strategy to really live, you need to have three things. You need to have cadence, you need to have consequences, and you need to have clarity. And what I mean by that is when we discuss clarity, so what does your branch manager need to do on Monday to make sure that that strategy works? A good organization will take that strategy and narrow it down into 3 to 5 concrete items that they need to move forward for. And the best companies take it even one step further into role-specific tasks that need to be done. In terms of cadence, you often hear that strategies are not a town hall, they're a drumbeat. And that's true. So you can have the best PowerPoint presentation in the world, but if you don't have anyone monitoring it and ensuring that what they've put on paper takes place, then really it's not worth the paper that it's written on, or the millions that you've spent actually for that strategy to cut from the big four. So it really is ensuring that boards, C-suites hold the CEO, the managers accountable on a regular basis. So whether that's monthly reviews of the strategy, quarterly reviews or annual reviews. And really at each monthly meeting, they should be asking the question, what have you done in the last 30 days that's actually pushed that strategy forward? So how have you contributed to it? And the third is consequence. So what happens if you don't do the strategy? So making sure that people are held accountable for their role in implementing it.
Thank you so much. Now, let's move from strategy to governance. Human capital is increasingly seen as both a risk and an opportunity at board level. What do effective boards do differently when they treat talent with the same seriousness as financial oversight?
Yeah. So if we look at the role of HR over the past 10 years, HR was always the back office that did pay rises, told you how much people you needed to cut in order to do your cost optimization program, or was there when you wanted to get rid of someone, so how do we get rid of someone compliantly? In the last 5 years, we've seen that HR have a more solid seat at the table. TA still has the wooden fold-up seat that comes to the table. Not quite there yet. So when boards want to be effective, they make sure that HR is a standing item on their agenda and not an afterthought. So they make sure that they hold their CEO and their leaders accountable for succession planning, for leaders, and that they have the right people in place to ensure that the strategy that they want and the transformation that they want to go through can actually be delivered.
And what about culture? For leaders who want to begin building a culture of trust and adaptability on Monday morning, what one tangible behavior should they role model immediately?
So culture is a big thing here. And I was always taught lead by example, and you can only really influence the direct circle that you're in and hope that that continues to trickle out. I think if you wanted to be a really good leader and a really good manager, you need to be vulnerable. We're often taught that when you become a manager, you have to be the know-it-all, that you have to be the one that knows it all. And I remember, if I look back at myself in my first managerial job, I was horrible. I genuinely thought that I had to be Miss Know-it-all in order to be successful, and that was not the case. You have to create an environment where people can be vulnerable. And you do that by asking your team, when it comes to the strategy, this is what we have to do, but what are your thoughts? These are my thoughts, but what are yours? You have to foster an environment that allows people to fail fast, but learn from their failures, and have open and honest conversations. Because once you allow that environment, then if you're looking at risk situations, you have people having more robust conversations. If you have diverse groups of people talking to each other, then you have different lenses contributing to the conversation. So culture starts with you as a leader and being vulnerable as a leader, making your team understand that you don't know everything, and that's okay, because the reason why you have a team is so that you can bounce ideas off one another. So that's what they need to start doing. Learn from my mistakes, people.
Yeah.
Do not be a know-it-all.
Quite right. So now let's talk about one of my favorite topics, innovation. How are leading financial institutions building the next wave of skills across their workforce in areas such as data analytics, AI, of course, and sustainability?
So there's probably about 3 different areas when we come to, learning and development, keeping in mind that people learn things differently. So 20 years ago, we all had to learn Excel. So, we had a love-hate relationship with Excel, but you had to know Excel to be successful. AI literacy now is mandatory. It's no longer optional. So if you do not learn the basic literacy when it comes to AI data, you will be left behind. And that's the crux of it all. And so what we're seeing financial institutions enable their team members to do is actually go through those learning journeys. And it's piecemeal, and it's bite-sized, and it's through different ways because people learn differently. Sometimes it's TED Talks, sometimes it's podcasts, it's classroom learning, which is becoming a bit archaic, but some people still like to learn. You do have a workforce that has different generations inside, so people learn differently. So enabling organizations and your team members to have different ways to consume that information is key. Secondly, it's investing disproportionately into those skills that are pivotal for the program success. So if you're going through a transformation and you know that you have to have data, cybersecurity experts, sustainability finance leaders, and those are the pivotal roles that you have within your organization, then organizations should be spending disproportionate amounts of money on training and upskilling those skills within the organization, because that's what's needed. So those are some ideas that organizations are using.
Thank you. So staying with this theme, where have you seen gender diverse teams directly improve decision makings or unlocking innovation for the organization?
So where I've seen gender diversity impact decision making, it's not only how decisions are made, but it's the way that the decisions are being made as a team. So when you have females involved in looking at different products that are going out to market, you have a different lens. They bring to the table women entrepreneurs, mothers returning to work, females with high net worth individuals. So it's a different lens that, with all due respect, our male counterparts just don't have that knowledge. And the same can be said when we talk about other diversity, when we're talking about decision making. When you have different generations, different nationalities, different genders in a room, stress testing ideas and having conversations, then it may seem more cumbersome when it comes to making a decision, but in the long term, it's actually more robust because you're looking, again, as I said earlier, at decisions and outcomes with different lenses.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so let's talk about women's leadership and inclusive governance. For organizations that want to accelerate women's leadership, what single lever tends to create outsized impacts such as sponsorship, succession visibility, board structures, or something else?
Yeah. So we heard mentoring being discussed earlier, and I'm a mentor, I'm a mentee, and that's fantastic. But if you really want women to get ahead, you need to have a sponsor that's got strategic clout. So what you need is someone that has that political clout within an organization that will say, she is ready for promotion, give her that extension, put her on the board. And someone that really just has a female's back. And doesn't necessarily have to be a male. It can be another female that has political prowess that can support that woman. But it's not a capability issue. In this region, we've seen amazing women on the stage thus far. There's amazing women coming on the stage thereafter. And it's definitely not a capability issue. It's a visibility issue. And so having someone there that can open the door and then stick their foot in it and make sure that the door stays open is what is needed. So it's someone that has your back. That's the lever that I would choose.
Yeah. All right. So to wrap up,
yes,
practical tips. We would like to leave our audience with something, and we have a diverse audience, which is always great. So In the next 12 to 18 months, what are 3 non-negotiables for, first of all, boards?
Okay. So boards need to have HR and talent as a standing item on their agenda. Full stop. So that should be mandatory and that should be happening today. And if it's not, get cracking. It needs to happen moving forward. Secondly is insist on having visibility on the succession of your leaders. So boards need to know who is coming up next. So who is going to take over the CEO's role? Who is going to be the next CHRO? So they need to have visibility on that succession. And they also need to have talent and culture as part of a CEO scorecard. It is amazing how quickly the tone will change within an organization when the CEO's bonus and KPIs are tied to culture, tied to developing talent internally, so they're not just buying talent from the market. That tone shifts from the top and then filters down. So those are my top 3.
Very interesting. All right, and what about 3 tips for CEOs or ExCo?
Okay. So depending on the size of your organization, you really need to outline and understand what are the top 20, 30, 40, 50 critical roles that you have within your organization and make sure that you have the right people in those roles and a succession plan for the people after them. You need to role model that adaptive leadership that I was talking about. You need to be vulnerable, because if you're vulnerable as a leader and you allow that safe space to fall fast and learn fast, then that kind of filters down through. And then also open up your pockets and fund some learning and development when it comes to those critical skills, and make sure that everyone in your organization is data literate, at least to the basic level.
All right, and of course, the brilliant emerging leaders.
Okay. So there was a question that was asked to a previous panel member about, what should she study, what should we study? And, in a previous place of employment, you had to do 40 hours of learning, and that was tied to your KPI. If you did not do 40 hours of learning a year, you lost 10% of your bonus. Now, I'm not suggesting that we do that now, but what you, as an emerging leader, you do have to take accountability for your own learning and development. That's on you. Build diverse networks, so come to forums such as this, meet people from different countries, different functional areas, different nationalities, because you're really strong if you have a strong network behind you. And last but not least, lead how you want to be led. And so, you are your own best example, so lead how you are.
Excellent tips for all of us in the room. Thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure.
Thank you
for having me.